Hi, everyone. I'm Mandy Dwight, founder of Dwight & Company, boutique sales and marketing agency for automation and robotics companies. Also the host of ROS Goss, the podcast that you're watching/listening to today. Today, I'm here in San Francisco at the RobCo headquarters, U.S. headquarters. We'll get to that in a minute. But I'm joined by Lorenzo Pautasso, who is the U.S. general manager here at RobCo. It is such a busy, busy day here at RobCo, but I am so happy that you're joining me today, Lorenzo.
Thanks for having me, Mandy, and thank you for being in San Francisco with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I almost felt bad coming in here today because, so a little bit of background, what you're not seeing, hearing right now is we're upstairs in one of the offices because below us, there are so many people setting up for what's going to be an amazing event this evening, actually in an hour. No stress, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So tell us about that, Lorenzo.
So we've been to the US for roughly 8 months now, and we came to this office, I guess, 4 months ago, but on a very low level, and we didn't tell anyone about it. And we've been here building, I think, probably 6 to 7 customer projects that went out of this office.
Oh, wow.
Without, really a big announcement. And so we decided, okay, maybe now there's the time to, we have a break where there's not too many robots in here, and the ones that are in here, we just pushed to one side.
Yes.
and made space for an event to bring in, friends, family, customers, investors, whom else, leads, people who, help us in our go-to-market, in our partner strategy, to just, announce RobCo formally as a robotics company in the US now, a company that assembles robots and solutions in the US and ships them to customers. Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah. No, that's a lot of projects to go out in 4 months.
So it's various sizes, right? Everything from 1 to 8 robots.
Wow.
And so you can, I guess, push smaller projects out quicker than the large ones. And the last one, I think, left the office last week. And so we're just stuck with a couple of robots now that are going into new customer projects, but we parked them over there and made space for the event today.
Well, they'll be good for demos tonight.
Absolutely.
That'll be great. I mean, it's interesting because, digging into the RobCo history, RobCo has been a company for, quite a bit of time now, yet this is the U.S. debut. So what is the RobCo story in your own words?
Yeah. So RobCo was founded about 5 years ago in Munich, Germany. And it used to be a university project, a university research project that existed for quite a while. And it was around modular robots. So how can you break down a robot into drives and links, essentially, that you can, like a Lego set, plug together, and they understand themselves how they are configured. So anything from 2 axes to 8 axes. They are intelligent enough to build a digital twin of themselves. And so everything that you know about robots in terms of, kinematics and the way they move, these modular links, Lego blocks, understand by themselves and can figure out themselves how to move. And so that was a research project that went on at the Technical University of Munich. Roman, our CEO and co-founder, along with 2 other co-founders, Paul and Konstantin, took that research project into the real world, to customers. And I think early adopters really were like, you need to found a company and you need to do this because it's hugely important. And the hypothesis there was the flexibility that a modular system gives you is hugely beneficial to SMBs, especially, who might be contract manufacturers where orders change, parts change, but also SMBs who basically scale and grow and have changing or growing aspirations and needs 2 robots, and that's where RobCo really fit in originally. Since then, we've grown to over 100 people in Munich.
Oh, wow.
And also going up on, we'll need to look at the slide later, but I think going up on 25 people here in the US probably.
Wow.
And maybe 20 rather than 25. But it's
It'll be 25 before you know it.
Yeah,
Us.
yeah, exactly. Maybe when the podcast airs.
I've seen your hiring page on your website, the career section. You'll be way up above.
It's but it's been a really a growth journey over the past 5 years. With Sequoia leading the Series A, and then Lightspeed joining for the Series B. And they'll all be here today. They'll be on the panel later. But a great set of investors. I think the other thing is a great set of people. Talent is what originally convinced me, besides the product, to join RobCo. I think I was amazed the first time I came into the office in Munich by the people, by the drive, but also by the knowledge.
Yeah.
And lastly, the product is just something that's really well received today. And is from all the way from, like small customers with 10 people to customers with over 500,000 employees.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I mean, thinking about that, I was at Mass Robotics a couple weeks ago, and we had this interesting conversation, kind of like, they said to me, Mandy, the US needs robotics now more than ever. And that was the topic. You guys will see that podcast coming soon as well with Joyce and Marita. But, the US does need robotics more than ever. And I think it's interesting that now here is RobCo focusing on SMBs. So, why? Why moving? Why looking at SMBs? What is the value proposition for them?
Yeah. So I think the robotic story is a story of accessibility and a story of, cost, complexity to access the market, the technology, and lastly, thought partnership on how to automate. And I think those three things RobCo really took upon itself with the robot as a service model. So renting the robots on a month-to-month basis rather than the huge upfront CapEx investment. Worst case, someone who then bails after and never hear from them again, right? Robot ends up not working and you're stuck with just dead weight CapEx investment. Exactly. I think the second part is the part on complexity and accessibility. So we're a one-stop shop all the way from initial idea to through design and iteration to deployment and then servicing. What we see here is if you take out the enormous complexity of, I need to go to a software provider to get my software. I need to go find robot hardware. Then I need to find a systems integrator who maybe brings me a bit of periphery. And I think all of that, uniting that into a one-stop shop, really, literally one person, an account executive that a company or a customer can talk to and figure out, what are my needs. Then we have technical account executives that help figuring out the technical aspect of it, right? And but it's all RobCo. And so if things go well, you can celebrate with RobCo. If things go bad, you can call up someone and shout at a single person rather than five different people. And I think that is really what customers value. And then third is the fast response time, right? So coming to the US has been a conscious decision because we said if we are gonna do business here and if we're, if we want to have happy customers here, we need to have a footprint, ideally also not only in San Francisco, I'm gonna get to that in a second, but across the country so we can have fast response times and be with customers when they need us. So if they want to change something on the cell, if something goes wrong, right, we want to be there with them and then just get the line back up and running very, very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, in that whole description, there was one word that I heard over and over again, and it wasn't the word robot. It was the word customer.
Yeah. I think, my background is in consulting. I was with McKinsey for 7 years, and I think the one thing that I took away from there was customer obsession.
Yeah.
We call them clients at McKinsey, which I think is even a nicer way to speak about it. And I think this client obsession is something that I'm really trying to bring to RobCo as well. I know Roman, Paul, Aryan, our chief revenue officer who came over from Snowflake, who led Snowflake in Europe for a long time. I know we all have this customer-centric view and this customer obsession really front of mind. And then, I think with a great team, with a product that fits a multiplicity of customer needs, whether it's, machine tending, logistics, we see applications in research even, or data security, like places where there are things handled that just can't leave the room and can't be seen by humans. And so that's something where we really try to address the customer specific needs. And here in the US, as you said, more than ever, there's a true need for automation at the moment. And it's hard to come by someone who does this as a one-stop shop and really looks at the customer and gives them what they need, I think.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, you and I, we both went to Automate. We spoke a couple of times at Automate, things like that. There's a lot of noise there's a lot of solutions, a lot of robotics, a lot of automation. How should an end user, especially an SMB, right? Because, maybe they don't have people that have an internal robotics background. Yeah. How do they navigate that?
Yeah. So I think that's exactly where trust plays a big role, and this idea of a risk-free solution in a way, right? So with our robot as a service model, if we start charging the customer basically a monthly fee when the robot works, right? Wow. And if the robot doesn't work, that means you basically have a risk-free pass at calling us up and being like, guys, you really need to make this work. My line's not running with this robot currently. And so I think we trust our product enough to say this is a business model that really works for us. But customers trust us because they see we have skin in the game when we enter a deal with them and we say, the robot's going to work. Otherwise, that service is basically not fulfilled, right? Yeah. And so I think for SMBs, it reduces the barrier to entry, really. And coming back to the point of they often don't have automation teams on their shop floor. Right. So that's really where the one-stop shop solution, the field service team that we have with, for example, Taylor at the moment.
Oh, yeah,
who
Taylor.
Came over from
Former
Rapid
colleague,
Robotics.
Yeah.
Exactly. Is hugely beneficial because they're so close to the customer. They understand their needs really well. And if a customer needs something, we're out there and we're solving their problem.
Yeah, no, that's great. And, in SMBs, right, like you always hear in the news, robots are taking jobs. They've been talking about this since I got into robotics decades ago. It's like, oh, they're going to take the jobs. And all of our PR teams would prep us for that question. I mean, how are you thinking about that with SMBs right now?
Yeah, so I spoke to the New York Times about this, I think, last week or 2 weeks ago.
Oh, good.
To Farah Stockman, who did a piece on, robots are not taking away labor. They're augmenting labor. And I think so one thing that we speak about at RobCo is we're trying to do the ordinary so humans can do the extraordinary.
I love that expression.
It's something that we really see in practice at our customers, and I like that. It's a great tagline, but it's also true.
Yeah.
So what we see a lot is when we come in, it's not about replacing labor; it's about combating labor shortage.
Yeah.
Especially, so I think there's regional differences here, especially in southern states. Labor shortage, as soon as you get out of the big cities, is a huge issue, right? And so just getting a robot in to augment the existing labor force is something that we see probably in more than half of the cases. The other part that I really like about this is as soon as a robot is there, you usually have a robot operator, and people get really excited from going from like machine technician or kind of person who works on the line to robot operator.
Yeah,
it's a cool title. It's a cool new thing to learn, and so I think summing up your question, the need is way more in augmenting labor than it is about replacing labor. And the second part is. People get just really excited and really happy about having robots there. I think there is initial skepticism oftentimes, right? And you really need to work with that and make sure that customers understand what robots are and how they work. But eventually, I see a lot of happy faces on customer floors.
I mean, we take it for granted, right? We see robots every single day. And but these people see this robot for the first time and they're like, wow, that's amazing. And it's like, you're right, it is. I just take a step back and appreciate that.
We had a customer tell us something really cool. So they had a bunch of other robots on their floor and we put the first RobCo on their floor, I think in February. And someone walked by and said, wow, we had the Kias until now, and now we have the Tesla. It was just such a cool thing to hear. And so, yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah, no, that is awesome. I mean, and one thing that is really interesting about RobCo, we talked about you guys are coming into the U.S. to really support, the fact that U.S. manufacturers need, robots more than ever. But also, Europe, whenever I've done deployments at a startup, we've sat there, this is going back a decade ago, we got to sell to some US companies.
Yeah.
And we found that because the technology was so new that we had trouble selling that. And I'm going back to 2016, 2017. US companies were a little bit skeptical.
Yeah.
But then we were able to call, Germany, for instance. I did a big installation in Mönchengladbach, believe it or not, at one point in my life. Yep.
It's also probably the hardest city to pronounce in all of Germany.
I spent a lot of time in Mönchengladbach.
Nice.
Nice. But they were the early adopters.
Yeah.
And we said, you know what? We're a U.S. company. We're going to Germany. We're packing up and we're going there. So Europe is the early adopters. And I mean, RobCo is an early adopter. Tell me more about that.
Yeah. So I think we need to look back like 15, 20 years to understand why that is the case. And so the German automotive industry, especially around 30 to 20 years ago already, faced a lot of cost pressure from especially East Asian, Japanese car manufacturers coming in, right? So the solution there was cut cost in a way that, again, doesn't drive out people, but that augments people. And the solution there was a lot of automation. So historically, the automation in Europe grew in the automotive sector at the OEM level, but then also at the tier 1 to 3 level, right? And so I think that particular type of cost pressure and kind of competitive pressure hasn't been observed wasn't observed in the US 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
It's a very different market when it comes to automotive and customer preferences. And so Europe got to feel that first.
Yes.
And so that's where I think I wouldn't say openness, but the familiarity with robotics really started. And then the openness, I think, comes with, having robots on your floor, understanding what does automation mean and what advantages does it give you. Still, I think the difference, or something that is considerably faster in the US, is just the pace of doing business and decision making, right? So I think just the nature of how US enterprises are set up, the nature of how worker councils or decision making processes are set up in the US versus Europe, ensures that the US is or it has a faster decision making process at the end of the day when it comes to automation. And so what I observe when I compare business in Germany to business in the US is it does move a lot faster, but at the same time, as you correctly say, the people are less familiar with robots, less familiar with automation, and so there's a lot more capability building and education that one needs to do than in Europe, right? And that comes down to the team level, where often even medium-sized enterprises in Europe and Germany have an automation team, even if it's only 1 or 2 people. You often don't see that here in the US.
Yeah, that's so true. I never thought of it like that, but you're right. Like, we're kind of in the US where that automotive industry was 15 years ago.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. I would say that the gap, and you see this actually in the numbers, is probably 10 to 15 years. And the US is catching up rapidly. So if you would have asked me...
Because of companies like RobCo.
Well, and also because of customers just really, really embracing it, right? I hope we can make a dent there.
No, I think that's why you're here, quite frankly.
But absolutely.
I mean, people need the choices, need to scale rapidly, things like that. And, that's a solution.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, so what you've learned in Europe, like what lessons are you bringing here at RobCo US?
So I always think if you can sell to a German person, you can sell to anyone.
I would agree with that.
So
having done business there.
Yeah. So that's I think the first big advantage that you come with to the US. But frankly speaking, I think German just quality standards are extremely high, and so bringing that process over to to the US is something that has been working extremely well for us, because again, the customer gets a certain standard at the end of the day that they really appreciate. I think the other thing is Germany, and specifically Munich, is a very, very good hub for robotics.
Yeah.
And so developing robots there, I mean, this robot is a 5-year development, right? And we have anything from a 2-axis tiny robot to a 40-kilogram payload, 2.5-meter reach.
And we guess palletizing.
Yeah, it does palletizing. Does a ton of machine tending of heavy parts as well,
yeah.
for example. And where else do we use him? He's called Joseph. So we call him Strong Sepp, and Sepp is strong for Joseph.
I love
so
that.
all our robots have names. And yeah, so palletizing, depalletizing, heavy item machine tending, stuff like that. Yeah. And so yeah, seeing that progression in 5 years is, I mean, I don't think many companies have done that, if any. And then even modularizing that is, I think, is truly impressive. And that really speaks to talent in Munich. And I think you have a couple of hubs around the world that have comparable talent when it comes to robotics. But certainly in Europe, Munich is the best address. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so, crystal ball, right? Like we kind of know that the US is, where Europe was, 15 years ago. What does the next 10 years look like for the US with the automation robotics landscape, do you think?
So I think we're going to have a new job profile emerging, right? Which is basically the automation control group, right? The manager who manages robots, the robot operators who understand how to work with robots, fix robots, integrate robots, right? And so I think it also kind of translates to then how do businesses and robotics businesses have to evolve to cater to that evolving organizational landscape, job profile, capability set that your customers have.
Right.
And at RobCo, we're really trying to enable that with, being software first, everything that the person interacts with, right? Making it easy to deploy, making it easy to understand what's going on with the robot, and making it easy to change flows or change states of the robot is something that we're really trying to embrace and make sure that we catch up or catch on to that next wave of capabilities at the customer side. One of my favorite features that we have, for example, is so we have our own Rob Vision AI vision solution that is our models and our software that runs almost hardware agnostic across all camera systems that are, let's say, that are used in the majority of use cases in the market. And there we developed this interface where you can just drag and drop CAD files of the parts that you want to detect. It just in the background trains the model, and then you with one click just deploy it to your robot, and the robot starts handling that part, right? And it was something that we developed for a customer, I want to say, a year and a half ago, because they were saying, well, I have 30 SKUs each month, and they're changing over and over, and that's one of the hardest tasks for vision out there, and so we said, okay, how are we going to solve this? Okay, let's make a drag and drop thing for the people working with the robot, where they can just upload their CAD files. It trains the model in the background, and then it can recognize that the part once the model is trained and done. And so, yeah, I think just constantly adapting to that skill profile and making sure that the way that customers, organizations, and people evolve is reflected in your product is something that we take very seriously and try to constantly do. And let me say that's different in Europe than to the US, right? There's two different profiles, and as said, this automation gap of 10, 15 years also kind of causes a difference in the capability, the level of capabilities, and the comfort of interacting with robots as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, and really when you talked about uploading those CAD files, dealing with vision, changing parts, I mean, you're talking about an advanced user now. So RobCo solutions can be for somebody that doesn't know anything about robots, but also somebody that's very advanced. So that's very, very good.
Absolutely. So the user profile or the customer profile we see ranges from, I don't want to deal with this robot, and whenever I see something slightly off, I will call you and you need to come out and fix it.
Yeah.
Which is perfectly fine, because that's why we are a one-stop shop for robotics, and we integrate ourselves and we deploy ourselves because we know our solutions extremely well and can troubleshoot either remotely by logging in over the air.
Wow.
If the customer allows us to do so. There are some customers, especially enterprise, who don't.
Yeah.
All the way to customers whom we haven't heard of in 4 years because they bought the robot, they bought the solution, and then either, they have their own team even exchanging consumables and just dealing with it, right? Or they said, look, please train a team, please build those capabilities in-house, so we don't have to constantly reach out, but we can, start to think about automation and the way we want to do things on our own and have that brain in-house, basically. And so we deal with customers on either end of the spectrum and everything in between, and I think that's what makes the beauty of, having our own solutions, having our own hardware and software stack, that we can really decide on how to roll it out.
I really like the difference that RobCo is between just, I'm going to buy an arm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's so much more there that is customer focused.
So I think in the end, what you're buying with RobCo is you're buying labor, right? You're buying a solution that can work for you. And it's so interesting also what the motivation is to, procure a RobCo solution. So we hear everything from truly, I don't have workers to do this, to there is, people get respiratory illnesses from dust that's in the air.
True. Because
they're handling certain parts that are dusty, that, release particles. So we'd rather want to protect them and have a robot there. And so I think supporting clients in everything from, just really combating labor shortage to making a safer, healthier environment for their employees is something that I find really fascinating, that in the end is I think, much, much bigger purpose than just putting robots in the field.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that's really kind of a nice place for us to close today. One thing that, I did bring something for you. So you talked a little bit about tech hub. Munich is a tech hub. San Francisco is a tech hub. And, Catherine and I flew in this morning from Boston, which is also a tech hub. So from one tech hub to another, I did bring you something. And I brought you a Boston lobster.
That is really great.
And they sell live ones at the airport that you can travel with, but I didn't know how that would go on the plane. Oh, I am very serious. The legal seafoods, it wasn't open when I took the flight this morning, but I said, we're bringing
so much.
A stuffed animal.
What should we name him?
I feel like RobCo names robots so well that I think it's on you.
Lucky Lobster.
I like it. I like it. And, and thanks again for inviting us, Lorenzo, to the event. We're going to take a little bit of footage and kind of throw it in the podcast that everybody can see it today. But we're so excited for you.
Lots of things to come. I think you'll hear more about new offices opening, customers.
Let me know. I want to go cover
stories. You'll have to come to Austin, and you'll have to be prepared for a true at-scale solution engineering space.
I love that.
And
good barbecue all around Austin. So
and good barbecue and frankly, wonderful nature. It's something that I didn't have on my radar until I spent quite a bit of time there and just tried to figure out where we're going to settle. So,
well, that's great. Well, Lorenzo, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Mandy.
Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Mandy Dwight, DwightCode.com, host of ROS Goss, Lorenzo Pautasso over at RobCo, U.S. General Manager. And thanks, everyone.